Welcome back to the Wild West Tennis Podcast. Today we have Brad Gilbert, a former top 5 player, coach, commentator for ESPN since, I believe, 2006. Is that right, Brad?
2003.
Wow, I've never been good at math. Okay, so he's also he's on his game. So Brad, let's get right to it, man. I mean, you were there. Well, you weren't there today. You've been there in the past. What did you think of that last match that just ended between Fritz and Ruud?
It's a heck of a match. It's hard to gauge, the atmosphere and the court itself, when you're not there. I was in London a lot. Now it's the second year we're in Italy. But we've had, some close matches. I hear the court is quicker, but, what's funny is the guys, the way they play now, they can make quicker courts, more normal. You can have rallies. Impressive effort. A couple of rule changes I'm definitely, if I could put in the suggestion box. The first one is, especially at the year-end championships, and I would be up for it, for an every third set breaker. I'd like to see 10-point breakers now, but what a comeback Fritz makes from 5-1 down. That's the kind of comeback that you might have saw in a 10-point breaker, gets back to 6-all in that third set breaker, little bit of a mishit, a missed forehand, and the next thing you know, good effort from Ruud. And what a diving volley that Fritz had to save a break point. That's sometimes a type of a shot that you can lose a match on. I thought he might get broken the next game after that dive.
Brad, is that why you'd like to see it go to a 10-point? Because the wheels can come off quick. And like you said, you can be down 5-1. It's like, oh, gosh.
Yeah. Let's say it's, listen, it's a tense 3-hour match. And
sure.
you get down 3-0 or 4-1, too many breaks. Almost always you will lose that, breaker. But in a 10-point breaker, there's a chance for, a couple of different comebacks. And there's, it's like a mini set in itself. But the more that now we have the 10-point breakers in the fifth set, and we have it in doubles at 1 set all, I kind of like to see it, in third set matches.
And what you're basing that off is now at the majors they've used it, and you've liked how that's worked out. Is that where you're taking it?
Australia was the first to do it, and obviously
right.
We do it in shortened matches in doubles in ATP. But I just like the way it plays out.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad, as a compromise to those who might not be on board. Would you be willing to say sudden death to 10, or do you want to? I
kind of like a 10-point breaker.
Okay, the way it is, I get it. Well, that sort of thing. If they've done it and it's worked out in the majors, there's a chance. Maybe at Masters Series.
That's why I put it out there on Twitter a couple days ago. Obviously, there's some other things I'd like to see on rule changes. But that's just a suggestion that I'm putting out there.
Yeah, and I think you're basing that off of what you've seen, how it's worked in the majors, and you've liked it. And it doesn't really add that much more time. Let's be honest. What, maybe an extra 10 minutes at most?
Yeah. And another thing I'd really like to see, for this year-end championships, since we're talking about it, I'm old school dinosaur. I think the final should be best of 5. There's no more best of 5 in any ATP matches. It's only in slams, but I would like to see that. And I don't understand why every couple of years. I understand why we shouldn't move around year to year, but I'd like to see every couple of years, let's say 3 years, I'd like to see, okay, if we're going to be in Turin for 3 years or 4 years, I'd like to see one of those years clay. We used to play Davis Cup finals on indoor clay. You can build it. So we play a third of the season on clay. I'd like to, we can't play grass indoors, but we could certainly play clay indoors. So I would like to see every once in a while they play clay indoors.
Well, here's what I'd like to suggest, Brad, to feed off your idea. You were there in 04 for sure and 03, I'm Yeah, for at Houston. Why not every couple of years have it be at an outdoor venue like it
Well,
was in Houston?
the problem is when you only have it somewhere a short period of time, maybe the event can't build to what it needs to be. And then when it goes one place for a year, like was in Lisbon or it was in Sydney, it seems to maybe do better when it's in a long run. So let's take Turin after London. Same like in London. I thought every 3 years they could have played on clay.
Well, that's interesting. So you're not, my idea being okay, you could have it on clay, and again, like a city like Houston, it could be outdoors. It's been done before. I think Houston was probably the only time it was year end was an outdoor event, unless you can correct me on that.
I think way back in the day they had it on grass. It might have been in
Outdoor.
Australia on grass.
Wow. Well, anything's possible, and it's such a popular and successful event. It can't fail.
No,
It,
I would just like to see, okay, 1 year the surface is a slow indoor, 1 year it's a fast
Mhm.
indoor, 1 year it's a clay, and then we move it, and it's the same. It should be the same. Okay, if we move to from London to Italy, wherever we go indoors, every 3 years or so, there should be 1 year should be on clay.
Interesting. Well, there's enough guys in this field, Rude, Nadal would certainly agree with that. And you're going to get at least half the guys that'll say, sure, Novak would be fine with any surface. But back to this event, Brad.
The guys are good on everything, and
Yeah,
whether or not it's fast or slow, it just makes it a little more interesting. It has nothing
sure.
to do. That's not just a Rafa rule. It's just kind of a tennis rule.
No, I get it. So back to the event. You touched on the end of the match with Felix and sorry with Casper and Fritz. Talk about Taylor's first match and what you think of his effort so far. I mean, he's done well, even in a loss.
He's really improved his game a lot. His movement has gotten better, and I think the big thing is his backhand. Has always been a good shot, but I think that his backhand now, he literally can be safe. He can pull the trigger, and his forehand is big. I mean, he's improved a lot. I mean, he's ranked where he's at for a reason. I mean, he's played his way into the mix. And I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing. And he's playing with a sense of belief and kind of a sense of calmness. He's not playing with a sense of, oh, I'm just satisfied to be here.
Boy, it's been a sweet rise for him. And I think is he what now in his mid 20s? Is he
He's
26,
25.
27?
He's 25.
Seems like he's been around longer, and that's good for
Well,
him.
he turned pro when he was 17, so he has,
Yeah.
he's been playing 8 years, and he's playing the best tennis that he's ever played now.
Right, and the best is yet to come. Let's just hope that dude, if he doesn't have any major injuries, do I think I asked you once before, maybe just when we were talking one time, is this guy ready to capture a major next year, or is that maybe in 2 years? I mean, how close is he to do that breakthrough?
Well, I mean, listen, he loses a fifth set breaker, to Rafa. He wins that
Sure.
match. He had never got, past, he never got past, the third round until last year. And then,
Right.
he makes that leap, to finally at Australia, making his first fourth round, and
Hmm.
then he takes another step to the quarter, So
Hmm.
it's about, taking these little steps.
Yeah.
Um, and listen, there's no foolproof. Do you have to take the step a quarter to a semi to a final? You never know if you just take the step like what we
Yeah.
saw Alcaraz. But
Sure.
I think he's getting a lot better, and I think he's giving himself much better opportunities on grass and hard courts. So, but I do think that the next progression probably next year is make a semi. But
Sure. Sure.
you never know if maybe then he'll make a final. But I think he's definitely in the mix, and I don't think this is a one-off year. I would not be surprised to see him back in Turin in 2023.
And it sounds to me like you like his attitude.
Yeah, I think most importantly, he's just getting, he's improving. He's
Yeah.
improving his, he's got a big serve and he's got a big forehand. But I feel like his game, he's more accurate with those shots now.
Uh-huh. And then, well, I think next up would be Felix. So before we talk about that matchup, just obviously Felix has caught fire the last month or so. Let's have you weigh in on Felix as you see him now.
I mean, the biggest thing that I see from Felix is his serve. I mean, he's getting so many free points. And a couple of years ago, I felt like the biggest issue with his serve was his ball toss would be all over the place. And he was reaching for it a lot, catching tosses a lot, far to the right. Now, he's using his size at 6'4". He's got a heavy knee bend on the serve. And he's
Hmm.
getting
Hmm.
so many free points. And he's improved his forehand from the center of the court. So I think that his serve has gotten way better and his serve +1. And same thing, he's been around a long time. He turned pro when he was like 15. He's playing challengers at 14. He's like a real, he's like a seasoned veteran at 22. So his game is starting to kind of peak as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. And looking ahead then to that matchup, because I think that's the next. They'll have a day off and then they'll play. That'll finish their round robin, right? He'll meet up with Taylor.
I mean, it's a very open match. Both playing really well. I mean, just off of the last month, obviously
Yeah,
FA's done a little bit. He's done better. He's played,
sure.
unbelievably well. But this is one of those matches, win and move on. Lose and your season's over. So,
Right.
it's like one of those cool matches.
Yeah.
It's a big match for both and big opportunity for both. So I'd say it's an even match.
So essentially, after today, Rude is locked in, right?
He's locked in, and whoever wins between those two
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
gets the semis.
And that's where the round robin, that's where it's at its best for me, where it's not confusing. We don't have to worry about
Yeah.
counting games. It's two dudes squaring off. Like you said, it's either adios or move on.
Every
So,
once in a while, you could have 3 guys 2-1, and then it goes
yeah,
by sets and had it.
games, yeah.
I mean, yeah, but I love the round robin format.
Yeah, I loved it too until we had it in Las Vegas and then it hit the fan, but we don't have to go back in time. Well, then, Brad, I guess since we have been talking about this year-end championship with the guys, can we just briefly talk? I don't want to go into every guy in the other group, but can we talk about just Novak? And what do you think how do you see this tournament ending for him? Will he be holding hardware or even have that opportunity in your mind?
I mean, he's playing really well, considering that obviously his schedule was so interrupted
Mm,
after winning Wimbledon. He doesn't get to play till after the Open,
mm,
and basically he's only lost. Okay, he lost the FAA and Laver Cup, but in ATP matches he's only lost 1 in the finals of Paris to Rouen. I mean, and
wow.
I thought it was an unbelievably high level match for Tsitsipas. Tsitsipas got broken in the first game of the match, never again. It's 9 straight times he's lost to Novak, and I felt like Novak, I felt like Tsitsipas played really well. But, Novak is like a tax collector in Europe. He's going to get it. Doesn't matter if it's slow court, if it's a fast
Yeah.
court. You play any kind of conditions, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And his movement for 35 is still exquisite.
I mean,
I do
yeah.
think, and the one thing I think maybe during some of his breaks this year, and especially now
Yeah.
being the full-time coach, I think he's put a lot more emphasis working on his serve. I think he's serving bigger and getting more free points on his serve, and I think that could be really beneficial for his game moving forward in 23 and 24, serving bigger.
And you always like to say how guys, regardless of where they're at in their age or career, getting better. That's always been a theme of yours. And boy, if he can get better on the serve, that just helps every part of your game. It's a no-brainer. And the other thing with his limited schedule, Brad, that he's putting less miles on the odometer this year with great results.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. Obviously, you know, he still it looks like he's going to be cleared to play Australia. Don't know about what the restrictions will be for coming into the States. If
Ah,
those aren't eased, then he can't play. Indian Wells, Miami, Canada, Cincy, U.S. Open. That's a big. Those are hard areas of the schedule to have to navigate around. But if you keep working on your game and keep working on things and his movement and his flexibility, I mean, it's remarkable that what he's been able to do and kind of piecemeal his schedule. But his level that he's playing at, he's playing top 2 tennis. There's no doubt about it.
it's beautiful. And look, like you said, it's somewhat ad hoc and piecemeal, but um, I, uh, I tip my hat to the guy to deal with all the what he's dealt with, to be resilient and be resurgent as well. He's got a good attitude. He doesn't, he kind of has your attitude. He doesn't worry about the past.
Yeah,
You know,
you know what? And the best thing to do as a tennis player is to worry about what you're doing right now and what's upcoming, because it's almost like you're a businessman. You got to kind of plan your schedule. Out 8
yeah.
quarters out. What you're doing to keep. And the biggest change now for even guys like Rafa, Joker, Fed, everybody that's turned 30 and well past it in their mid 30s, it's thinking like you're in your 20s, that I can still work on parts of my game. That used to be such a foregone conclusion. You turn 30, it was just you're trying to stave off the end. Now it's not stave off the end. It's keep working on your game to get better in parts of your game. That's kind of like the essence of challenging yourself to keep working on your game. Then these results keep happening.
But wouldn't you say, Brad, that then Andre Agassi was the first guy to embrace that? I mean, you would know better
Absolutely.
than anyone.
And I
Right.
think that Andre, without a doubt, getting to the finals of the 2005 US Open at 35, all these guys didn't
Hmm.
see that. So I think that Andre was the impetus for all these guys that, like, you know what? Things are possible now at 35 that we didn't think are possible if you plan for it. So Andre was definitely, and I think it had a massive influence on Federer, who played him in that 2005 Open. It's like, man, if this guy could kind of do what he did at 35, if I really take care of myself, kind of plan things out, like not like 3 months, think about it in 3 and 5 years, I can be there. And sure as heck was.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. That's kind of sweet. And you know, um, talking about coaching. I know you've talked a lot about working with Andre, obviously. Since we're focusing on American players, when I first met you was at Queens in '03. Just a brief sort of reflection of what it was like to you'd been working with Andre, as you said, it got played into his 30s, to work with a young person, a young American. How did you have to adjust your coaching style, in general?
Well, I mean, every person that you coach, I call it's an empty canvas. It's a blank canvas, and you're working with their strengths and individualities. The worst thing that you can do as a coach is say, I want you to play like him. I want you to do like this, and I want you to have this. So once you start working with a new player, you're looking through their lenses and trying to help them fulfill their dreams and become a better player. That's the key as a coach, is helping your player become a better player. And some coaches have a style. They want you, like some of these football coaches, they only coach one way, and
Right.
if you don't,
Yeah.
it's my way or the highway. I'm
Yeah.
not like that. I
Yeah.
don't have a
Yeah.
style. Um,
Yeah.
my style is who the person I'm coaching with, and try to help them become a better player. That's
Yeah.
that's the key to being a coach. And remember, it's not that you look through your eyes because I would do this or do that, or maybe the last player might do it differently. You're looking through who the player that you're coaching is, what their strengths are and what they need to do. And so that's kind of how you look at it. And then when you start as a coach with somebody, it's day one. Whatever happened before doesn't matter. It's where we're started now and where we're headed.
Yeah, I mean, you did outline that in your second book, I've Got Your Back. I think came out in '04. You did chronicle that period with working with someone like Roddick. So if anybody listening to this, for more in depth on his experience with Roddick, you could pick up that book, I've Got Your Back. It's a great read. Different than Winning Ugly. It's just a shorter book, but a great read for a tennis fan.
It's
Um,
kind of, I still feel that way. And anybody that I work with, I work with kids or I work with adults or whoever I work with, it's always kind of figuring out what you can do to help them become a better player. That's the whole goal. Be honest, but it's not like, okay, you have to do this, this, and that, because this is my style. I think that's bullshit. The style is the
yeah.
player that you're coaching and to help them become a better player.
Yeah, and that's probably a good philosophy in any relationship in life, because you still remain yourself. Just because you're a good listener and you're a good observer, but you're still Brad Gilbert,
Well,
regardless of
and
occasion.
thank you, buddy. And speaking of coaching, I'm happy that the coaching trial, that hopefully it will become, I haven't heard if we're going to continue it in 2023, but, I was happy that finally after like 20, I think the trial, the last one was in 99 and it went away. And so it's great that, listen, it's out there and hopefully it will continue because I like it. I know some people don't like it. I like it.
Mhm. Well, I haven't watched enough tennis on TV lately. This is also being captured on. I mean, they're showing it, right? The network.
Well,
They're,
no,
they're.
Netflix is doing a show.
Oh,
They're
really?
following
Okay.
the players, but like in the U.S. swing, like this summer,
Mhm.
you were allowed to, like when the player's on your side, you're allowed to talk to him. So like when
Okay.
you can't have like these full blown conversations, but it's now legal, and you
Oh,
can make little motions and you can do little things.
oh, yeah, like Patrick Martagalu in the final with Serena
Yeah,
when he got
exactly.
that's allowed because it was going on anyways,
Yeah.
and
So
it's kind of
it's a
like
good way.
yeah,
It's a good way to stop the cheating and the third. But
yeah,
now, it's open, and so hopefully they'll
yeah,
continue that.
and that's allowed at all events on both tours, or is it just an ATP thing?
It just started, yeah, on both tours on the North
Oh,
American swing, and
no
then
kidding.
it
Okay.
kind of it continued. But I haven't heard if we are doing it for 2023. I hope so.
Let me ask you this on that note. So the player designates a person. It could be their dad. It could be their official coach. If they don't have a coach, it could be their buddy. That whoever they designate, right? It's just one
Yeah,
dude that's
and
allowed to do
and
it.
then the whole box can make motion, I believe.
Oh, okay. So all right, that's great. I need to watch more live tennis to catch that. And as you said, it's not cemented yet for 2023, but they haven't said no, which is cool. Um, so, Brad, speaking of TV, you guys are going to show that. Talk a bit about your, commentating. I saw a podcast with one of your best friends, Chris Fowler, did a podcast recently. It was really great, and he was able to explain what it was like because that's right. He started in '03 with you. Can you talk a bit about your experience from '03? I mean, it's a lot of time to cover, but what do you love about that?
I just love being involved in the game, from playing to coaching to TV. I mean, sometimes you sit down, you never know if you're going to see some unbelievably memorable match or things happen. Um, and I enjoy sitting courtside. I enjoy
Yeah,
being in the booth.
yeah,
I enjoy being in the studio. And
yeah.
I'd like to, think that like I'm the beer drinking guy. I'm having fun, and I'm
Yeah,
not taking it for granted.
yeah,
And I'm not phoning it in. I love it. I love every
yeah,
time that I go to the courts. You get a chance to see something. And ESPN has been, it's been a great 20 years. They're a great They've got a great team. We've got great production.
Mm-hmm.
It's an honor to be part of the team for the last 20 years.
That's what Fowler indicated. I mean, he talked a lot about you and Darren and Patrick, and that you guys, you do knock down a few brew dogs afterwards because you guys like enjoy each other. It's not just working together; you're friends, and I think that helps the broadcast. You know,
Yeah,
it
yeah, there's
shows.
no doubt. If the fans know if there's contention and
Yeah, yeah,
the fans know if there's camaraderie and we got a great match and like I said, I do three different things. I do studio, which is
yeah,
it's different than courtside and then in the booth. So
yeah.
they're all great platforms.
Mhm.
And listen, we get to do three great tournaments. We do Australia, we do
Yeah,
U.S. Open and Wimbledon,
yeah,
and listen, it's
yeah.
just a treat to be at these tournaments.
And it looks like next year, from what Fowler, well, I don't know if he said for sure, but it looked like you guys might be going back to Australia. It might not be from Bristol.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, okay, still up in the air, but yeah, I know he was really stoked about that. And I remember when you sometimes you'd be in the studio, you wouldn't leave the studio. I mean, when you're working. You never sort of leave the ESPN compound. It's really cool, your commitment.
No,
Like,
I like when I get there in the morning, and then when I leave, when the day's up, okay, then okay, I could shut down. But like when I'm there, I'm like, because listen, I could be on or do a rip in the studio, go to the mat. So
yeah,
I'm focused on the tournament, all aspects of it. So like that first week, or first 8-9 days, you put in 100 hours or something, or long days.
yeah,
But
yeah,
listen, I love it. There's nothing.
yeah, and
I love being there, being a part of it. Love
yeah,
seeing like something unfold, like what we saw at the Open this year. These unbelievable late
yeah,
finishes, 5-hour
yeah,
matches, 5-set
yeah,
thrillers. I mean, the perseverance of seeing what Alcaraz did from the round of 16,
yeah,
the quarters and semis, 5 sets, 5 sets, 5 sets, coming from a breakdown in the fifth against Chilich.
yeah,
Saving a match point
yeah.
against
Sinner.
a sinner, and then 5 sets digging deep against Tiafo when you thought, no, he's
Yeah,
not. Just
yeah.
it was just memorable to see something like that.
I mean, it's easy to say because it's still fresh in your mind. But Brad, boy, in the last, I like how you said 20 years. Your anniversary with the worldwide leader in sports. It's probably the best one, at least in a decade, wouldn't you say?
It
This
was
last
incredible.
Open.
It's incredible. I
I
mean,
mean,
like, and the greatness, I think, of baseball, like that for the announcers and the enthusiasts, they always preach you might see something that you've never seen before.
yeah,
That's their calling card. You may be going to see something. I feel that's the same in tennis. I mean, look what we saw in the Open. Look what we saw in the Aussie Open final this year.
oh, right,
So I just feel
yeah,
like there's some things that you can see, like that just don't happen in a zillion years. 2 sets to none comebacks in a slam final.
yeah. Well, it's like Yogi Berra sticking to your baseball analogy. And what do you say? It ain't over till it's over, was
Yeah.
what Yogi Berra said.
Or
And that's
he
what you.
used to say sometimes too, it's getting late early.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'll cop to this. I thought to speak to what you mentioned that Australian Open final when he was down 2 sets and I guess a break and maybe almost a double break. Right? Didn't he have a
No, he
point
was
from
down. He
me?
was down 2-3, love 40.
Yeah,
So
I clocked out.
he was like 7 minutes from that match being over.
Yeah, because I couldn't get it. I live in Mexico. I had to do it on live scoring, and I'm like, it's done. But he'll be. And I thought to myself, I'm a Rafa fan. I'm like, but this is good. He'll be prepared for the French. And I clocked out right then, dude. And big. That would be a yellow card, right, in your
Yeah.
system? If
No,
I
but
did.
we had so many amazing matches this year.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, it always gives you that great hope, as a tennis fan, as a tennis enthusiast, that, you know, that, like, it's like, then you get excited already 2 months away from Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. Well, Brad, I'm going to let you go. So I'll throw one more question out there. And, um, man, boy, I mean, it's, it's, I guess people might say this every year, but I don't know if the game has been more exciting on both tours than it is now. And I bet people say that every year. Um,
Well,
but
I
you know what
think
I mean?
the one thing that I think that is really amazing is that sometimes, obviously we play on a lot of slower courts. Um,
Yeah.
but doesn't matter what court we're playing on. If it's a slow court or it's a faster court, is seeing the guys and girls, the movement and the ability to extend rallies. I think for
Yeah.
me makes for great viewing, and
Hmm.
just seeing, like, because I hear the guys saying how fast the court is in
Hmm.
Turin, and yet they're extending the
Hmm.
rallies. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
incredible, the movement, the athleticism, and obviously the strings are allowing the guys to take these bigger swings. But the extended rallies, I think, are great because, listen, I played in the 80s and early 90s when you had some of the big bombers playing on these fast courts, you never had any
No.
rallies.
Sure. Well,
So
on the fast courts, you're right. Yeah, for sure.
so seeing these extended rallies and hearing that these courts are fast is so exciting that the game is just continuing to grow and produce, talented players.
Yeah, I mean it's yeah. Yeah, I think the equipment it has gotten better, the technology, but the athletes have gotten better, which is true of all sports, right? I mean,
Totally.
it goes hand in hand. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting 2023. The last thing I said was going to be the last question. We haven't touched on any of the women. Could you just briefly? Uh, I'm curious about two players specifically from the U.S. Pagula and Goff. I've been really impressed by Pagula's year because he had that great U.S. Open run, and Coco's a young kid that's amazing. Just maybe a quick assessment of those two, and then we'll get out of here.
Well, amazing. Pagula finished the year 3 in the world, and Goff
Yeah,
came into Fort Worth 4 in the world. I think she dropped to 6. Crazy. I mean, they were a
yeah,
combined. I mean, they had this great year, both of them, but then they both had a rough. They both went
yeah,
0-3 in singles, and they went 0-3 in doubles. So they each went 0-6 in the first time in the history of tennis somebody lost 6 times in 1 week, and they both lost 6 times. So,
yeah.
man, that
But that's coming on the heels of Pagula winning Guadalajara,
yeah,
and
it's
so
crazy. She was just coming off of a win, and then to lose
yeah,
6 times in a tournament. So it shows you, how tennis can be from week to week. It's an amazing year where she's come from. About 4 or 5 years ago, she wasn't even in the top 100.
yeah,
And now she's,
yeah,
3 in the world. So, she's yet to make a really deep run in the slam. She's got to a couple of quarters. So that's definitely, the progression for her next year, making a little deeper run, semis, finals, who knows, winning. And Goff,
right,
same thing. She got to a finals of the French. Um,
yeah,
but I think she's getting better. I still think that her forehand can get better.
yep,
I think her forehand can get better, but albeit she's still improving and she's in the top 5 in the world. So a lot to
yeah,
be, look forward to for both of them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and I think that for the moment, Swiatek has put a little distance between herself. Now it's up to the players.
Yes.
Can they catch up to her?
Yeah. Oh boy, you're right about that. That's well again, Brad, that's a whole nother podcast. I appreciate you checking in because I know you've been glued to the TV all day. That wall is still waiting, but they
I'm gonna
probably
go.
don't
You know
have
what I'm gonna
light.
go do right now? I'm gonna go hit about 20 minutes on the
Right.
curve wall at Pepperdine. I'll just
All
work a
right.
little grooving, little volleying,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I'll come back and knock down a couple of beers, and it'll be a good night.
I think it'll be a great night, and you're probably one of those people that's smart enough to do it either early in the morning or late in the afternoon because the sun's less of a problem.
Yeah, so I go like 6 in the morning, on the
Yeah.
sunrise. And then, now we're getting dark about 5. So I'll
Yeah.
go
So
over about
yeah.
4, and it'll be shady. So yeah, I go either really early or really late.
Well, I think we're right in that honey hole. So get down to that and enjoy the brew dogs tonight. Are you? I think last time I talked to you, there was this elephant brand you were
Yeah, the Belgian one. Yeah, I like that.
yeah.
I got I'm a little stuck on the Carlsberg
Yeah,
Elephant
sure.
Pilsner 7.2. Very physical. And I like those Belgian beers.
So the Bud Ice days are over.
Long over. And then, I like LA Works, and there's a bunch of these LA, and Southern California, and California, like some of these cool, Pilsners. And yeah, I'm a beer connoisseur.
Well, hey, look, Brad, as I've always believed, and they got to be ice cold. If you've got that, then you've solved half the equation.
47 minutes in the freezer does it justice.
There you go. All right, and it shouldn't take more than 20 minutes to drink it. I mean, why waste time? It's not wine.
See you, buddy.
All right, later, Brad. Thanks for tuning in to the
Yeah, no
Wild West
problem.
Tennis.
Have a good
Oh,
night.
all right. Yeah, I got to do my sign off thing, Brad, but you get to the wall. Thanks for tuning in again. That that was a little bit of a Brad and Brad beer review at the end there, but thanks for tuning in once again to the Wild West Tennis Podcast. It's always fun to have Brad Gilbert do anything. He's one of one of my favorite people in tennis, and he's easily accessible to fans and to players alike. So again, it was great to have him with us. He had to really get going because he's in Malibu, and if he doesn't get to the wall shortly, then that's going to interrupt his beer drinking time with his happy hour. So, but he's happiest when he's playing tennis. So I will conclude today just this Brad on his own by saying, remember to like, subscribe to Quality Shot Tennis on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, like, subscribe. I always struggle with this part, but I think everyone knows the drill. And this has been a lot of fun. Adios. Hasta la bye-bye.